the way insurance is done and come back to the original principle. Of course, to do that, you needed interesting new technology. So it's always time and place. And you needed also to satisfy our clientele at the beginning, which was focused to the Islamic world, because it's one of the largest population in the world, fastest growing. So already as an economical sense, you have to do something in that space.
I wanted to actually invite two co-founders of the same company. The company is called Takadao. I'm joined by Morrad Irsane and Sharene Lee. I understand. So you find niches, you find gaps. I think you mentioned half a dozen of these. There are use cases, therefore you can build the technology service. What I still am not entirely clear is, how do you take this to the market? So how do you get people to come onto your platform?
Guess what, Arjun? They're still underserved. What's happening? Something has to be done.
Have the traditional insurance companies, Takaful or otherwise, started to take notice of what you guys are doing?
The Shariah is actually, and Islamic finance generally is not opposed to profits at all. As a matter of fact, the whole premise of Islamic finance is invest your money, we profit share, we risk share, it's equity based. So it is against interest because it is not equitable. Interest allows the people with capital to actually accumulate capital at a higher rate than those without capital.
So welcome to today's episode of Couchonomics with Arjun. I am beaming in from Riyadh, from Riyad Bank's state-of-the-art innovation center called Jeel, which is in Islamic Value. For those who might know, a few weeks ago, I announced our collaboration between Couchonomics and Jeel, which has allowed me to start sort of inviting startup founders who are from the kingdom to the show. So with that, I wanted to actually invite two founders rather than one. Obviously, they're co-founders of the same company, not different companies. The company is called Takadao. I'm joined by Morrad Irsane. I've got that right, Morrad?
Yeah, perfect.
And Sharene Lee. That is not a hard name to get. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us. Really a pleasure.
No, it's a pleasure. You guys belong to a generation of fintech, if I may use that, which is relatively new. A lot of you guys don't like being called fintechs, right? It's more the Web 3.0 sort of, I guess, revolution that we are seeing with new technologies, new ways of solving problems, and so on and so forth. So I guess let me just start with a very simple question, because I think it would be really helpful to the audience to sort of understand what is Takadao all about, right? And you know, you call yourself a Shariah compliant fintech, right? How do you actually merge the concept of a DAO, right? And I'd like you guys to sort of deconstruct that term for it, and Islamic finance. How do you sort of bring it together?
So I may maybe start, and Sharon will maybe add up on that. So what is Takadao? So Takadao, to keep it simple, the idea is to create community-based protection pool, the like of the one of the Lloyd's back then, where shipmen were putting money together and they were helping one another in order to protect one another. The industry actually in the insurance landscape has been evolving and changed it to more centralized way of doing things. So when we wanted to create Takadao, we wanted to reinvent the way insurance is done and come back to the original principle. Of course, to do that, you needed interesting new technology, so it's always time and place. And you needed also to satisfy our clientele at the beginning, which was a focus to the Islamic world. Why the Islamic world? It's because it's one of the largest population in the world, fastest growing. So already as a economical sense, it's you have to do something in that space. And then Takadao was born about the need for myself and Sharon and the people around me as Muslim, a global Muslim citizen, who are underinsured or not insured at all. So we combine the technology and we combine the Sharia principle, it's our pure DNA, and we create the pure model of insurance protection or community-based protection through our technology. Simple as that.
And you started how long ago?
We started 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
So Sharene, maybe I asked this question to you, but either one of you answer. There is a backstory to the inspiration behind creating Takadao, right? Which is sort of linked to a sort of personal loss, a passing of a friend, right? Talk to me just a little bit about what that was, and how did that sort of turn into an idea?
So, you look at your life, right, and you wonder, well, what brought me to today, and what were the events in my life that shaped what I'm doing today? So one of the key events was the passing of a family friend. So we had this family that lived at this time we were living in the UAE. They were close to us in age. They had children that were close to us in age. So the husband goes off from the UAE to Mecca to do Umrah. On the way back, he's with a friend. They fall asleep at the wheel, and they get into an accident. They both die immediately. So the very next day, we hear about this big tragedy. We were like, we need to support the wife, the widow. So we go to her home, and the thing that struck me was it was packed. It was standing room only. Everybody had come to offer her support. So they came with food, they came with money, they came with offers of employment, they came with gifts for the children. And what I took away with me that day was the power of the community, right? So when people are down, who helps them? It's the neighbors, it's their friends, it's the families, the community. It's not the insurance companies, not the banks, not the government. It's the community. So that was a key thing that stuck to my mind. I'm like, truly powerful institutions are community-based. The second thing that was important was the 2008 financial crisis. During this financial crisis, I was a new adult. I had some money, so it actually mattered this time. It was clear to me that the large institutions did not always have our best interests at heart, right? And there was this the profit incentive, and greed often does push people over the edge, and lots of things happen, and eventually the little guy gets hurt. So I'm like, this is not a good way to go. There has to be an alternative to centralized control and these institutions that are just able to manipulate the system. And the third event would be our previous startup. So we are, serial entrepreneurs. This is our second technology startup. And to me, the most straightforward path to making impact in this world today is to start a tech startup. If you just look, the first maybe half of my life, nothing really changes with the world. And then you have the internet, and then you have mobile, and then now you have things like blockchain, AI. Everything's changed. And I'm like, and it's compressed maybe 50 or 100 years of change into maybe 10 or 15 years. So I wanted to start a tech startup that was focused on community and that would help people financially and build a better financial system. This is how we ended up here today.
Interesting. Let me unpick all aspects of that one at a go. We'll start with technology first, right? Because you said wanted to establish a tech startup. You obviously decided to go down the blockchain route, right? If I go back a couple of years, the word blockchain usually meant an answer looking for a question, right? To an extent, that's still true, right? Although I'm a big believer in the power of DLT, and yes, blockchain is one of the DLTs out there. So again, we'll take a step back. I really would like to understand, what made you pick blockchain, because you could have still solved the problem that you're solving without blockchain. Tell me if I'm wrong otherwise, right? So what was the reason which drove you towards blockchain, right? And then let me ask you a wider question in terms of, as a technology, you see blockchain, you're quite wedded to the concept, right? Because you guys are incredibly active in the wider, if I may say, Web3 community, blockchain community. You guys are, spokesperson for the shift in the trend that we are seeing. So, long question, summarize. Why did you guys choose blockchain? And second question is, how do you see blockchain coming to life in the wider financial services sector?
So maybe I can start with why do we choose blockchain? So I want to say that you are wrong. We couldn't have done what we've done today without the blockchain.
So you couldn't have done it?
It's not possible.
Okay.
Let me unpack that a little bit. So what we're doing, Takadao, is to build the technology that enables pools of people, communities, to mutually insure one another without a centralized entity. So we're not managing the funds. There's no insurance company managing the funds. We're not custodying the funds. controlling the flow of funds. How can you do this in a TradFi or a non-blockchain system? There's always somebody who's making the program, and when they've deployed the program, they can make edits, they can make changes. There's always a master key. But this is why the blockchain is exciting, and this is why the blockchain enables what we're doing today, because use of smart contracts. So how does it work in our case? So one of the key enabling technologies that we've built is an underwriting model, right? It determines risk, it determines how much somebody should get paid, it takes the money in, it custodies the money, it pays the money out. Now, I'm saying to you, I don't control that. Neither does anybody. No centralized entity controls that. How can that be? Well, the use of smart contracts basically means you create the computer code and you deploy it, and it doesn't get changed. Because in order for you to change it, you're going to have to write over the blockchain. And every node on the blockchain will say, no, you cannot change it. This is what it's supposed to be. You're not allowed to change it. The only way to upgrade a contract, therefore, would be to basically stop that contract and deploy a new one. And so in that way, you can ensure continuity, that the contract will keep going no matter what happens, and nobody can control it. So I like to say to people, if you are part of a mutual protection DAO that runs on our smart contracts and our technology, even if we go away as a company, your mutual protection DAO will just keep going until, in perpetuity.
Unless it's perpetuity.
Yeah.
Having said that, it all comes down to how many of those nodes you control yourself.
Perhaps. So that's why you want to use a public blockchain, something that people can enter easily and exit easily, that has a large enough mass.
Okay.
And not only that, to add up on that, look, to deploy a contract for traditional insurance or takaful, it's a minimum $50. To make sure a claim is paid out is another $100 maybe to do that. So just because of this fact of doing this kind of transaction at this high cost, is almost impossible for insurance to go to a nation where global south nation where underinsured people can get an insurance. Using finally blockchain, a smart contract can enable us to deploy a contract for as less as 10 cents. The cost of the smart contract at scale is almost nothing. Likewise for the claim. The other interesting things about why blockchain, the takaful industry has been criticized somehow because of opacity. We don't know how you pay. Yeah. You pay back your claim, and you don't know how you pay back to the participant member. Through an open ledger like blockchain, that's the best way to actually see on time what's really happening. So you actually over-regulated, if you want to look at that. If the regulator want to regulate us, is already there, okay, in a sense. Second, every single individual can now see every single transaction live. And that's why blockchain is an integral part of being transparent. So we're really flipping things around. The table has to move in.
Yeah, just to add, it's not the takaful industry, it's the insurance industry as a whole. Yeah. So I want to take a step back, and I want to give you a little bit more of a why do we do this and how we're different. So it's a very simple thing. When you go into an insurance contract, it's you against the insurance company. It's a zero-sum game, right? If the insurance company gives you a payout, that comes out from their bottom line. They're losing money. If you don't get a payout, well, you've lost money. So your interests are not aligned. And this causes a lot of problems. Number one, if a profit-seeking entity does not go into markets where there's no profit. So I would say just a little under half of the world is uninsured completely, entirely, right? Number two, you have the worst user experience, because now if you have a big claim or there are many claims at the same time, the insurance company is going to stall, right? Because they have cash flow issues. They're like, oh, we're making too little money. You have the worst, most terrible user experience. So we're like, hey, this wasn't the way insurance started. Insurance started as a mutual protection society. We want to help each other, and that was the motive. But it got warped over the years by profit incentives. So we said the best way to do this is let's take the profit incentive out. And let's make this a mutual peer-to-peer structure, obviously with guide rails, which are provided by the technology. And if it's a mutual peer-to-peer structure, how can we trust each other? Can I trust you? Can I trust him? No, I cannot. So it needs to be an open ledger that can be verified. So you cannot do this on traditional fintech or trad technology today. It has to be blockchain. It has to be
blockchain.
transparent.
Just so you know, I don't know. I'm sure you don't know. I actually spent 5 years at AXA.
Okay.
Then I spent.
So I'm talking about you.
Yeah, I wish I was influential enough to have time. And then I spent the next 10 years advising insurance companies, including actually starting one of the largest insurance companies in Saudi Arabia.
Wow,
So I spent. I've been here for 14 years, but I don't disagree with opposing incentives or opposing forces in terms of the way the insurance company works. Every insurance company is unhappy in paying claims. Most will want not to pay it and find ways around it. So it's not a very healthy environment. And I totally agree with you. That's one of the biggest reasons, cost aside, why a very large swathe of the world sort of walks away from insurance, right? Insurance is kind of the least popular of the financial services products.
Which should be the opposite usually, because the way they started up, like we say, was public good.
Yes, it was.
But the only thing that they kept is actually those words. The rest is all gone.
I mean, I in defense of the insurance industry, people don't wake up in the morning trying to be bad to others, right? But the system is warped.
Yeah, it is the system. I don't
is
think it's
messed
the
up,
people who
yeah.
wake
Yeah,
up and stuff
of
like
course.
that, right? You could say that about the entire financial services sector. I don't
Correct.
think necessarily it's the people. So let's take away the profit motive out, right? So you said let's take the profit motive out. That resonates with even the I guess the Shariah view of doing things. If how do you then attract capital as a business? So why are you attractive to investors?
So I want to just address what you said. So the Sharia is actually, and Islamic finance generally is not opposed to profits at all. As a matter of fact, the whole premise of Islamic finance is invest your money, we profit share, we risk share, it's equity based. So it is against interest because it is not equitable. Interest allows the people with capital to actually accumulate capital at a higher rate than those without capital. So it's not actually equitable. And it's very much a profit-seeking thing as well, all right? But in this particular case, with insurance, that profit actually causes incentive problems, right? So what we do, our business model is really simple. We're a technology services provider. We're not an insurance provider. We don't sell insurance policies. We don't control the insurance fund. We provide the technology that allows people to build their insurance mutual protection pools. Within the pools themselves, they are not for profit. But we as a company, we provide this technology and you pay us.
Which makes you profit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Right. Any particular reason why you did go down Sharia compliance? Is that largely because you said there's a very large Islamic population which is growing and is underserved?
Yeah. First of all, I want to be honest. When you go back to building a company, you know that you sign up for the next 10 years. And I was, unlike the Web3 IPO in 12 months, which is usually the case. So you build a company in a long time period. So you have to be dedicated. So to be a founder that's going to dedicate the next 5-10 years of your life, you really have to have a mission and a vision. And we didn't want to do something that's going to be, again, I would say, not driving us and making us wake up in the morning and say, hey, we're changing the world in a sense. So the biggest challenge for our community was the under-insured and on the bank. And we say this is the biggest side of the population.
Yep.
So first of all, surprisingly, we're the fastest growing population in the world. On average, you have, they say in Algeria, you have 4 kids per couple. In Saudi Arabia, they say 3, something like that. Or, in Malaysia, it's 5. And surprisingly, in Europe, is a quarter human being. So and China is becoming to 0. So eventually, you have, a sizable, like they call it, niche market of 2 billion. I like that.
I like the way niche and 2 billion go together. That's
so it's a no-brainer, and then, the very highly tech-savvy, fastest, youngest population, technology advancement, you name it. There is every single statistic KPI goes into this population. Guess what, Arjun? They're still underserved. What's happening? Something has to be done.
Right.
And we are like, again, a minority majority that is completely inexistent in the global sphere. Why all the financial product has to be issued from the West?
Yeah.
And
There's no reason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they have alternatives.
Well, actually, funnily enough, I think, if I'm not wrong, UK is one of the largest Islamic finance markets in the world.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Which is bizarre because it's not one of the, if I may say, Islamic majority countries in the world, which is large.
But they realize that
there's an opportunity to serve
of
people.
course,
Yeah.
and they
Not only
understand
that, I think the principles of Islamic finance are a more inclusive and a
Sustainable.
better, sustainable, especially sustainable way to do finance.
Yeah, because
There's a book that and I think his name is Tariq El Diwani, something like that. It's like the case against interest or something like this, and it makes a really compelling case that interest is not a sustainable system. It ends up with the whole problem that we have today: fiat currency, fractionalized reserve banking, inflation, etc. So there's an argument to be made that it is a better system. So why not?
So I'm going to come back to the next question. I do have a question for you, and please choose not to answer this, right? So within sustainability and climate change, we use this term greenwashing, right? Which basically means that you set up your stall, you call yourself an incredibly green-oriented business. Behind the scene, it's not really true.
Yeah.
The same can be said about a number of players who have used Islamic finance as
washing,
as I don't know what the word for it is.
Washing.
It's some level of washing.
Yeah.
Don't you see a lot of that?
Yeah. Look, the reality, there's so many misuse of the term. There are so many people taking advantage of this great community, and they're like, hey, why not making money out of them? Again, if you're not driven by mission, vision, and you're not a part integral of this community, which myself, I'm the first users of this product, it's not going to fly. Second, we don't like the if you go to our website, our name ourselves, they think I'm Japanese, Takadao. I'm not selling, I'm no Islamic, no nothing.
Yeah. I was walking down the streets of Japan looking for the restaurant.
Yeah, so that's funny because they're like, what is Takadao? So the thing is, we are visible as founder. I cannot hide the fact that I'm Muslim. Okay, she's the same. So I don't need to sell that. Okay. And second of all, every single business we always build, Arjun, by the way, was always with a sustainability angle in it and giving back to the society. That was our, always building a triple P, people, product, planet. When it comes to the Sharia compliance, whatever, I wish I don't need to use these words. Mm-hmm. I'm Muslim myself. I want to be using my product. They have to be by default Sharia compliance. You will see us actually outside of our website and our event. We never mention halal, Sharia, and everything. We have an event called Zero Interest 3.0. Mm-hmm. Doesn't.
And I totally agree. I don't think, with all due respect, I don't think just because you're a Sharia compliant product, it is only for the Muslim population. I'm not Muslim. I should be able to use that product, right?
It is not.
100%.
Exactly. So the way we approach things as builders and people who love to build product, we like to build products that are relevant to everybody. Mm-hmm. So when I go to Airbnb, I don't care where the guy come from. I like the service and I use it. So what we try to build with Takada is the same feeling. Same feeling. Of course, if people want to talk deep dive into are you really compliant, no problem. But at the end of the day, we see a lot of non-Muslim actually reflecting in those value. They're like, wow, I like that. I'm getting screwed by my insurance. Yeah. My insurance did me. So all these kind of feelings are actually rising up, and we're building a super product, not really tapping into this community only. By default, the community needs it the most. So we're going, of course, as a target for them. But the reality is a project that is global and reachable to everybody.
So Morrad, so here's the way I see it, and again, please correct me. I think having a value system behind a product is good, right? And unfortunately, sometimes we tag value systems to religious disposition, which, to be honest with you, yes, there is default, but people could be from different religions with similar value propositions, right? And I
100%,
totally
yeah.
appreciate that. I like the idea that, you obviously use the opportunity of branding yourself as an Islamic finance product because there's a very large population which recognizes themselves to that particular cohort or group, which is underserved. So I think you're smart in a lot of ways that I say so. Let me come to the question. This leads to the question around community, right? One of the challenges of building any community is awareness, education, and clarity of what you're offering. With all due respect, right? With the technology that you're using, the concept that you're building, right? It's fairly complex, right? But for simple brains like me, most of these things go right over my head, right? How are you guys unpacking? How are you guys being able to communicate to the ordinary, right? That, blockchain is the best thing since sliced bread, and community-based insurance is where the world used to be, I don't know, 100 years ago, or wherever it was. How do you communicate it?
The first thing I will tell you, when you drive your Tesla, you enter, you drive. You don't ask Elon Musk, can you explain to me what is behind, how is it powered? You will not even ask those questions. So the first thing we try to do to our users is to get them using a product that is really a Web 2.5.
I knew we were going to go into these 2 points.
Exactly. So we take you actually, and why I say Web 2.5, they don't even need to know even the 0.5. What they need to know, I enter the website, I have few questions that I want to answer, and automatically you are pushed back to our membership, I would say, which is on the live DAO, without needing to understand what is underlying technology, what is behind blockchain, AI. No, you don't need to have that. Agreed. What you care is like, how much do I have to pay? Is it, all my beneficiary are going to get the money if anything happened to me? And that's it. That's all you need to know. So we are approaching that in that direction, not in stuffing people with Web3 and a word that nobody understands.
Okay. Yeah, and it's about communicating the vision and the mission, right? So what we're out to do is to build technology that enables people to help each other. And that's really what it is, right? Because at the end of the day, my experience has taught me that when you need help, it's the other people around you that help. It's not institutions. And that's what we're trying to create, a way for people to help one another.
And I'm going to be controversial.
Please be.
Look, in a Web3 space, the more you confuse people like you, the more you are like seduced by those ideas, the more you want to throw money at those projects that are not sustainable. Most of the time, they have like a 10 years plan or 5 years plan to come up with. They come up with a white paper, projection and so on and so forth. The reality, 9 out of 10, they never see the day. So and they follow a hype, FOMO and stuff like that. And by the way, now being 2 years in the industry, the reality is that there's a lot of quote unquote legalized scam. To be honest, everybody is the same bed. 3 of them, the co-founders, the founders, the VC, the community. They all suddenly realize that I can get rich in 12 months period. Okay, I put my money, that everybody's caught up. And that's what we try to do at Takadao, say, hey, hell with that, not interested. This TGA, token launch without product, without revenue, not our way of doing business in Web3. We don't want the web industry to be hijacked by this kind of system. The reality, like I say, it's too easy for everyone to look at that. Even traditional VC now, they allocate a certain amount of cash to this quick IPO. And I'm there to denounce it.
So, Morrad, my question is, while you've taken a very noble position, and I totally agree with you, among all the noise and the hype, and there is so much of it, how does your voice or others like you, how does their voice emerge?
They emerge because what's happening, they emerge when? During the bear market.
Yeah, that's true, right?
So everybody that you met during the bear market that are still building and they have a product with a revenue and, when you build on Web2, you see an end result of the product. Why isn't the case for Web3? Why is it that
you'd be surprised? So we just came back from Token 2049, which is a big global Web3 conference. I think 20 or 30,000 people attended. All the who's who of crypto came. Every single person told us, "Oh, you guys have a real use case. You guys are not just trying to sell a token, right?" And all the people who have even a little bit of understanding of the industry, they realize that, hey, you have a commercial model. Oh, your product actually makes money. Wow, you have cash flow. So it's it
Good. These are
becomes,
novel concepts.
it becomes incredibly clear.
it is.
Because in the token world, a lot of people build technology for the sake of technology. They don't have a commercial model. And the way that they make money is with the token launch.
Yep, totally.
That's the only way they make money. But the reality, Arjun, things are changing. It's not a tsunami of founders who are kind of trying to shake things up, but they do exist. And we gather together and we don't want our industry to be hijacked by youngsters or not
Let's
so
call
young.
them cowboys and cowgirls.
Exactly. Because
Degens,
imagine this beautiful technology that is here revealing to us is being like, at one point, it will happen. You know, there will be people losing, because the underlying technology is there to stay. And eventually things will happen. How fast, we don't know. But that's why we say be part of a community that want to be long-lasting product that makes sense and have use cases. And again, not to criticize anybody in the play, VC, founders, and everything.
So let's move on, right? So you mentioned you build technology, right? So a couple of questions. What products? And you mentioned LifeDAO. I'd like to explore that a little bit too. What products is your technology currently underpinning, right? In the classical product sense. And then the next question is, how are you taking these products to market, right?
So let me start with this. The very first DAO that we are powering is called the LifeDAO.
Okay.
Now we consider this to be an alternative to life insurance. Why we say alternative is because the structure is very much different. So it's a pool of us getting together, and we're saying if something happens to you, your family will get a payout. Now our technology determines what the payout is. Custody is the funds in the smart contract. It even has a claims management process, which is actually run by the DAO members themselves. So this is our first product. Now, this isn't the only product, because what we found as we started to, become known in this insurance, quote unquote, alternative insurance world, lots of people have come up to us and are like, you know what? I've never been able to get insured for A, B, or C. Can you guys build us a product to insure this? One example is dive insurance, right? Divers are notoriously difficult to insure. It's extremely expensive, whatever insurance they have, and not very flexible. There are so many other examples. So today there's a huge crisis when it comes to homeowners insurance, especially in places where there's floods or there's wildfires. So that you can imagine a group of people who are like, well, they've dropped me. I can no longer be insured. And they can create their own product based on our technology that, will cover them despite it being high risk, etc. So there are a lot of these use cases that we're addressing. Travel insurance, example, for the expat particularly. One of the things of insurance is there's a lot of regulatory capture, right? So you actually need to be a resident of such and such country in order to be insured from that country. So what happens to the expat who's like, I live here, but my beneficiaries are there? And then how does my beneficiary make a claim if, they're in a different country altogether, don't have the bank account, cannot travel, etc.? So our product is built to be global from day one. And again, something that's only enabled by the blockchain, right? You cannot do inexpensive cross-border transfers on TradFi. It's impossible.
Well, we know it's about 11%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Usually.
That's if you're rich.
But let me ask you the question, right? So I understand. So you find niches, you find gaps. I think you mentioned half a dozen of these. There are use cases, therefore you can build the technology service. What I still I'm not entirely clear is, how do you take this to the market? So how do you get people to come onto your platform, right, to be a part of your community, to contribute towards it, so on and so forth? So who's the front end? Are you working with third-party market makers, and you basically just provide the technology and they take the product, or are you building these products themselves and going to the consumers themselves?
So it kind of depends on the product we're talking about. So with the LifeDAO, because it is globally applicable, everybody needs life insurance, you can go to B2C, you can go directly to the customer. Now, in other more sort of specialized insurance, there usually is already a community there. And they're like, we need to bring something to help us. So those people are already there. It's a question of, okay, their leaders come and they're like, build us a thing. And
Yes. So
there
you
it
have
goes.
like in Indonesia, for example, you have community of 60 million people doing these things off chain. There's a central point of failure there. If the guy, as much as is liked by the community, run with the black box, it's gone. So they need a decentralized solution to like us to do it. Same thing for in Malaysia. We have
Morrad,
also-
how do you find these guys?
Oh, connection. Is
Yeah, like
Don't you know he knows everyone?
well, that's true too. Yeah.
Now, what it is that, you know, the good news about our community is very not easy, but is very not complicated to meet some of the leaders. Okay?
No, hold on,
Okay,
hold on.
to-
Your community is the Web3 community. You're servicing people who come from my part of the world,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
The 2.0, the 1.0.
There's two
community.
type of community. So, so as she was saying, there's different of strategy. There's the first strategy, of course, is our partner in a Web3 world. For example, we have a partnership with Chainlink, 2 million members who are willing to hold the token and get insured with us. Okay. Second strategy, we go through a member Islamic finance product who have crowdfunding community. Wahed is one of them. They have 200,000 members in Malaysia, 500,000 globally. Those guys, they are our recipients. So we go to them, say, hey, be part of that crowdfunding and be insured at the same time. This is a product available to you. So we go to a B2B2C model. And then after that, like I say, people are chasing us to build solution for them.
Yeah, so a lot of it is inbound.
Inbound. So they
surprisingly.
come to us and they say, I have a community of this much. Can you do it? Canadian Muslim community. Say, hey, we want to do that. We have a Uber. I was in Algeria a couple of months ago, and they had this illegal Uber called Yasir.
I love that. Illegal Uber.
Yeah, because they are.
Yasser is the super app, isn't it?
Yeah, Yasir is supposed to
He's
ship.
gonna get a
yeah.
call from them tomorrow.
No, it's okay. It's a friend. I have no issue with that. So the license.
I
that
wanted
they
to
have-
get him on my show, by the way.
Yeah.
I did reach out to him.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
waiting for his response.
Side note, yeah, you.
So basically, what they are legally, the legal license is to ship or to deliver package. So the uncle becomes a package. So the guys so they cannot pick up people. It's
I
package.
mean, the legality in this case
Yeah.
is not important.
Yeah.
The point is they cannot get insured.
Yeah. So they cannot get insured. So the guy comes say, when we get stopped as a driver, blah blah blah, we get a problem. We have to pay a bill, a ticket, plus they impound our car.
So
So
there's
imagine
a loss of income.
loss of income. Imagine 50,000, 100,000 members. It doesn't only apply to Yasser, but all the so-called ride-hailing company in the world who need particular
So
insurance.
imagine you can create a
Communi-
loss of income DAO for people in ride-sharing, ride-hailing businesses.
Mm.
And they're asking. They're like, oh, that's an excellent idea.
Okay. So tell me about the tension then this creates in your business model, which is a B2B business model, which B2B2C or
yeah.
B2B2E employee, whatever. And so you're building it out for other people, right? There's a whole cohort. But at the same time, you're also trying to build out a B2C product, which is LifeDAO. I'm sure there are others that are in the pipeline. This is a question for any founder in any startup, right? There are two very different, distinct business
Yes.
models. Yes, the underlying technology is the same, but you're operating and as you scale, as you become bigger, and so on and so forth. So what's going to happen? You're going to spin off these as separate businesses, or you're eventually going to go and say, you know, something, I want to be a B2B player. Like for me, I actually only I'm a small-time angel investor. I only invest in B2B businesses, right? Because I love infrastructure, deep tech, solving the problems of third party. I get scared of anything which is retail,
Yes.
right? Because my view is, oh God, cost of customer
So
acquisition,
difficult.
and so on.
Yeah,
and so
it's
forth.
very difficult.
How are you working with the tension of the
So-
two business models?
I want to be completely frank, right? So this
You
is
should
not.
only be frank.
Yeah, this is not our first time at the rodeo. And the thing with when you take something from 0 to 1 is that your plans continuously change.
Right.
So what we have is like, okay, we're going to launch this thing. We're going to see what happens. This is a B2C play. Let's see if we manage to get to the C. And along the way, we're like, let's try a different strategy. Now, let's take this product, which is B2C, and try to go B2B2C and see whether that works. And then you really kind of just refine your strategy over time. It's really too early for us to say to pick one or the other because we really don't know which
No,
works.
I love a B2C business which goes B2B2C because, from my humble opinion, the B2C business becomes your showroom.
Yeah.
Right? It becomes your sandbox
Right.
in a lot of ways.
It's like
right?
a proof of concept.
Yeah, it's a proof of concept, and it can constantly, you can evolve because, in a way, you learn from a consumer behavior, and if you can keep it afloat
Yes.
without losing tons and tons of money on it, I think it's a great showroom window case to have because there's no better way to convince a B2B2C player than that. So I totally appreciate, and you're 2 years into your journey, so you know you're not the first person who's doing this. Even in the TradFi world, we see this example. Let's do a little bit of a conversation around LifeDAO, right? So can I join it?
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So you're saying this product is open to
Are you
anybody.
under 60?
Under?
60?
Age is yes. Physically, I think my physical age is a little bit above 60 now. But yes, but so if I'm under 60, what do? I go on your website. And
Absolutely.
What do I do next?
It mimics any kind of life insurance customer journey. You go on the website. We have a calculator there. Now, the difference is you get to choose how much you want to contribute.
Okay.
Right? And it will tell you, well, if something happens to you, this is the range of benefit that you will get. You sign up. You go through a process of underwriting. We ask you questions. Do you smoke? Do you shisha? Do you do, extreme sports? And if everything checks out, you KYC and then you pay.
Do I have to go and do a check at a hospital?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
So a lot of people ask me, well, how does that work, right?
Yeah.
Well, basically, that part comes out at the time of the claim. So if you have a pre-existing condition which you did not disclose knowingly, we only care if you actually make a claim.
Right. So you'll beat me up when I'm not going to be able to take the claim then.
Well, that's the thing. So we tell you, right? So we strive to
So you have a whole
be,
list
Yes.
of pre-existing conditions.
Well, we strive to be transparent and simple. So
Okay.
we're not trying to we don't have large contracts where people have to read through. It's really a 2-page
because
thing.
that's what insurance companies do.
Yes.
They hide all this kind of stuff. So,
So-
when we were one last point. When we were building this, I specifically had multiple arguments with the underwriting team. I'm like, we need to throw out all the exclusions except those which are fraud.
Mhm.
You know what I'm talking about because you're from the insurance industry. Because usually there's all these kind of hidden exclusions that say we will not cover you, but then there's so much in fine print most people don't know. And this is what they brought me, and I was like, no, I don't want any of this unless they intend to defraud, and that we should have no exclusions, right? We just have to build this into the underwriting model.
Okay. So you've stayed true to insurance, right? But your model works on non-insurance products too. Are you expanding into it? You've already expanded into it.
What do you mean by non-insurance?
So
product?
community-based lending is
Yes.
a use case. So are you going to go beyond just insurance?
I would say today, no.
No.
We got to
Okay.
focus.
We're very focused on
Yeah.
because there's so much demand, like I say, into the B2B model, like crowdfunding, SME crowdfunding, and they have a risk ratio with
Credit default
credit default
insurance.
insurance. So what is interesting that we didn't tap into, we are entering real world assets versus when people talk about Web3, they're entering
Digital tokens.
digital asset, which we're not going to neglect those potential solution and in the future, but now it's really looking after real asset. For example, in the electronic industry as well, there's a guarantee protocol, and that's a huge market for us.
That's right.
Exactly. So for GoPro, for example, we talked to them, and they're like, hey, after a year, the GoPro broke. How can you give us a protection on that and
Like an
replace extended warranty? So this is all the electronic landscape where we see a big growth into our protocol.
I want to just say that the insurance industry is between 9 to 12 trillion annual revenue industry.
A year.
I don't know who you ask.
Yeah.
It's not a small industry.
No.
It's a huge industry.
Yeah.
And to date, as far as we, for the most part, the majority of insurtech startups exist to serve the insurance industry. There hasn't been a true disruptor of the insurance industry. There hasn't been anybody who's saying, I'm going head to head with the insurance company. I'm going to build, an alternative to them. It's always been, we've come and we work for the large, large industry and the large institutions. It's something that if we just focus on, I don't see that we have any any time to do anything else.
No, that's good. I like focus. I like focus. Let me shift the conversation a little bit to regulation, right? How does the regulator respond to what you do? Now, I understand you'll say that you are an infrastructure provider. You don't necessarily need to be regulated, right? But I'm assuming your product at some level, or the users of your product, or I guess the sale, the community which is offering this product will require some level of regulation. How are the regulators getting their head across offerings such as yours?
So we've talked to the FSA. We've talked to Central Bank of Bahrain. We've talked to MAS, so Monetary Authority of Singapore. So we have a good. We are, we see the central bank here, SAMA, all the time, and we try to talk to them, but they know who we are, but we haven't gotten in a conversation yet. So we engage with regulators regularly. So there's two things to. Well, there's something that should be pointed out. First of all, Takadao and then the mutual protection societies are two different things, two different entities. The mutual protection DAOs, they have their own corporate structure, their own shareholders. We do not own any of the shares in the DAOs. And Takadao has its own, corporate entity as well. So when we go to the regulator, that's how they see it. They're like, okay, Takadao, what exactly is it that you do? We build technology. Do you sell insurance policies? Are you in the business of an insurance company? Do you make money from selling insurance policies? Do you control the flow of funds for that company, etc., etc.? No. Okay, so you are a technology services company. And so what we are regulated for is if the technology is sound and if the smart contracts do what they're supposed to do. Now, unfortunately, for most regulators, they are not sophisticated, or they don't have the in-house expertise to read the smart contracts.
That's what
figure
I was going to say. Yeah,
to figure out how would we regulate this thing, right? So that's maybe sometime in the future. I don't know what that's going to look like. Now, for the DAOs themselves, generally they come as non-profit foundations. That's how they're regulated, and that's the legal wrapper that we have created for the very first DAO, which is, by the way, in Singapore. And so they are a non-profit foundation, and they're also not in the business of selling insurance because it's a mutual aid society. So that's how regulations work in our.
So you're selling insurance, but there's no insurance regulation.
We're not selling
We're
insurance.
not selling insurance.
We have members
exactly
adhering to the DAO.
Yeah. I mean, the point is you
have to be careful with your wording.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. But to a simple person, how do you get your heads around it? I think, isn't this the challenge that the regulators are also struggling with?
This is what's exciting. We
Yeah.
tell somebody,
I know it's exciting. Totally.
We tell somebody, you're joining this group of people who are there to mutually help one another. If something happens to you, they will help you. If something happens to them, you will help them.
And the regulator.
And that actually they get.
Yeah, they get it. I mean, Singapore and even the people who from the takaful industry, they get it. And they understand the terminology and stuff like that. And this is what we are, and inshallah, God willing, like we say, we'll start getting waivers where this product could finally exist. Look, Arjun, the reality, we're talking about really well capitalized nation where they have access to water, electricity, insurance, America, Europe, and everything, Dubai, UAE, KSA. What about Rwanda? What about Ghana? What about Senegal? What about Pakistan? 90% of the population uninsured.
Uninsured, yeah.
So if I come to you and I come to the government of such a nation and I say I have a sustainable product, okay, that could, with the help of your own population, self-sustain and insure one another, you will solve the problem of burial cost in Pakistan itself, which is a minimum of $5,000 to bury someone. Buy the place, feed the people, pay some debt, and so on and so forth. Our solution is a perfect solution for any state-owned. Hence, reconnu d'intérêt public, in a sense.
So you're very good at convincing people. You got Tim Draper.
I don't know if he's the opposite. Maybe he convinced me to take his money.
Oh, is it? Okay, well, that's very good. That's good to hear. That's
We're
even
very
better.
good at conveying the mission.
Yeah. So obviously, I think, you announced it, I think it was about 6 months to a year ago. I forget when exactly it was, right? Bringing him on board, has that made a difference? Has it sort of galvanized your fundraising activities? Because I was also going to ask you, where are you in your journey in terms of raising funds for the business?
Yeah, the reality, like, again, he's also a very good convincing person to take his money, and And the reality goes both way. We are good at conveying what we're doing, and of course, as who he is, he understands the market size, and also the first thing I like about him was like, are you going against the insurance industry? And I was shy to say yes. And he's like, I said like, yeah. He's like, oh, I love it. Go for it. I want them dead. But that's his. He really understand that this has to stop. You know, he tried to even insure his own home. He could not even find a proper insurance to insure his own home in California. So the second thing about team or whatever the opportunity for us, it's we have to be realistic, Arjun. In the Middle East, top VC money from Silicon Valley or even China and everything has never reached at the pre-seed level. So you will see money at say A, B, C, D, whatever. At pre-seed never exists. So it's really also a sign of interesting that we got him at this stage, and he's really a visionary. So he likes to look at things that are really unsolvable, quote unquote, limit unsolvable. You know, and he's like challenging. So that it's good to have him on the cap table. Don't forget, he's somebody who's very when he likes what you do, he's very hands-on. He gives a lot of he's one of the few VC who really read the entire
He's the only one that responds to my
and respond to every single
investor update email.
investor email, and give you even advice on the creating a product that any
He actually
layman
tested the product.
any layman can use, and that's very great. Yeah, so it's but closing a big name is not only that. You need to execute on that as
Don't
well.
worry, I will invest. I will not invest. I will
Respond.
Well, I'll participate in the Life DAO this weekend. I'm going to spend time. So where are you on your journey in terms of your fundraising? Where are you? You've done your pre-seed, seed.
Yeah.
You don't have to name amounts to me, but I want to get a feel of how big you are, how fast you're growing, because I did speak to a few people. They said, you're Touchwood growing at a very, very healthy rate, right? So where are you in your journey in terms of growth?
Yeah. Right.
So we closed a pre-seed round, and this was 1.6 million. This was in September of 2023.
Okay.
And
just over a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just if my dates are right. And then it was led by Tim, and he invested $1 million. And then we started raising a seed round sometime in the middle of this year, and he also did follow on, and he put a significant amount as well. And then we kind of stopped raising, and today we're not actually raising money. Because we do have a substantial runway, and what we want to do is to prove out the very first DAO, the live DAO. We want to show traction. We want to show product market fit, and then we're gonna go and start raising again. Now, even in our raising strategy, what we really want to do is to raise from the community. This is a very Web3 concept, but I mean, it was invented in Web 2, right? So you want to grow a community. You want to give back to your community. So your community should be your investors.
Agree.
And then you should be able to then share something of your company with your investors, and at the same time have them use the product. So this is what we intend to do at the next round of funding, and to really aggressively, go to our community and say, hey, come support us, help us. You will gain something from the investment, plus you will be able to use the product, and then we'll all grow together.
And you have a side, as she mentioned, you have a side note with the token as well, token allocation. And again, we do things a little bit different than the Web3 industry. Again, when you look at the Web3 industry, you see a lot of big numbers in the Telegram, in the Twitter account and everything. And then this concept of a bot. And we realize that even going in a token launch, you are attracting a lot of, they call it airdrop digger, and also bot. So we wanted to have a pure good quality of users, hence partnership with the Chainlink, or partnership with Arbitrum Foundation, partnership with Alliance USDC. And all those guys, as I was mentioning earlier in the podcast, they're kind of sick and tired to see things going the wrong way. They're looking for the winners who are bringing real product, real value not only to the general community, but for the community as well. So we have also this partnership with the token allocation will be given to a real community and really user base. Yeah.
My last question. I want to dig a little bit deeper on LifeDAO. How long have you been going with it?
So we have launched it to testnet. This was maybe a little over a month ago. And we are, putting on the final touches. We're fixing the claims processing process. And it should go live, meaning pay claims, ability to pay claims, January 1st, or not January 1st, sorry. My team keeps pushing the date back a little, but early next year.
Yeah,
That's the plan.
So Q1 next year, let's call it that.
However, we will start pre-join, so people can join in advance at a significant discount, sometime beginning of November, 2024.
So LifeDAO is something you're going to go out there and prove, right? That's going to be the trigger towards raising the next money. You're already building out from a B2B2C model, right?
Yeah.
Any particular part of the world where you're getting greater traction?
There's a big demand from Southeast Asia.
I would
Actually.
imagine so.
So
Asia Pac,
Malaysia for multiple reasons. The concept of takaful is not questionable. It's fine. It's Sharia compliance, but there's more demand from the population to have transparency. So our product, through different pocket of communities, high demand. Southeast Asia, also like Indonesia. Of course, Europe, there's a large Muslim population who really want to use our product. So yeah.
So basing yourself out of, I assume you're based out of Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah.
So and is that the way forward for you, or are you saying that no, we got to double down, move to Southeast Asia, Asia Pac, because you got Indonesia, the largest Muslim population in the world. You got Malaysia, which has actually got a very well developed Islamic finance system, etc., etc., etc. Is that how you're looking at it, or
look? To be honest,
and Central Asia itself, right? Again,
I like the 50-degree summers here.
Yeah. No, the reality. Look, we have to say the obvious. Riyadh is becoming a magnet.
Yeah.
I met Tim Draper here. I was not in Silicon Valley, and everybody's coming to Riyadh. And I've been like one of the earliest believers when I took my company out of UAE and set up office here with Meltu.com, got acquired by local IKEA. And I saw the big potential of that place, Then second, Saudi Arabia now are going to be net positive when it comes even into food production. Imagine from the desert, you see the El Marai becoming super. So it's you're really in the center of the world. You're 6 hours away from Kuala Lumpur, 6 hours away from France. Where else do you want to be? So, and then on top of that, Mecca. It's kind of interesting. If we want to build takaful insurance, and the Saudi Arabia try to position themselves as taking over Malaysia when it comes to Sharia compliance financial product, banking and everything. And they have actually big winners and for themselves. Saudi Arabia, for the longest part and longest time, they were building great product, but for their own local market. What we see for the future is that Saudi Arabia would kind of becoming a players in the Islamic finance and really compete with Malaysia. And again, for us, it's the market. Usually Malaysia, Indonesia, they like what's happening in Saudi Arabia. They see a winning solution coming out of Saudi Arabia. They're coming.
Well, this market itself is incredibly underinsured. Let's be honest with you, right? You have a few monoliths who are incredibly large, and they stayed large, but the sector remains quite underpenetrated. Right? I said last question, but there's a last question. Sharene, let me come to you. Have the traditional insurance companies, Takaful or otherwise, started to take notice of what you guys are doing?
I don't think so. I hope not. I don't think so. No. We when we first started building the company, unlike most founders, we talked to everyone we knew, and we went and we spoke to as many insurance industry insiders, CEOs, COOs as we could. And So they know we exist, but I don't think they really care about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because what we're doing essentially flips their model upside down, and it will cause so much disruption that they cannot, even imagine how they would implement something like this. I
Yeah.
don't think it's
Yeah,
possible.
it's really no, we, I remember early days, even reaching out to you, Arjun, and all the other network into the insurance industry, and they were all feeding us with a cannot be done, cannot be done. Eventually, from cannot be done, becoming interesting, until like where can I put my money, and changing their mind. So the traditional players, they have really like a veil into their things. They don't see until it's a Kodak moment, I would say. It's like you cannot believe that the digital will take over the physical aspect of it. But with the closed network and the great people that supported us from the beginning, we've always been in touch with all those great names that I cannot mention. They see the things. So they're employees of those big companies, and they're like great supporters. That's the good news about it. I wouldn't say the industry itself care. We're insignificant at this level. We need to execute to make sure that the first DAO is a success. And then after that, we'll see if we end up in jail, or if they keep us going where
No,
we are.
I'm sure you're not ending up in jail. I like that. I like the humor undertone, Morrad, you have with most things, right? No, I wish you both the very best, and I wish you the best with Life DAO, and hopefully your team will deliver by January and not by March, right? But it doesn't matter if it's January and March. I think what you're doing is incredibly novel, right? I'd say, I wouldn't say I've followed you actively, but I've been on and off trying to understand what you're doing. More and more of it became clearer. Today it's become very much clearer. I can see half a dozen places where something like what you're doing can immediately be applied, but stay close and stay sure on insurance. You don't have to get distracted by people like me, right? Because we guys have never been entrepreneurs, right? We spend our life.
You're one of the best entrepreneur in the podcast is entrepreneurship.
No,
yeah.
unfortunately,
Totally agree.
this is a public good. This is genuinely it's a public good, and it's a selfish incentive that I have, because I learned so much out of these sessions. Keeps me at my old age, as you pointed out. I'm about 60, a little bit ahead of the curve. But no, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
Best of luck. Obviously, we'll stay in touch. Our paths will definitely cross regularly. I'm in Riyadh every week. And, we got to expand the community. We got to bring the Web 2, Web 3 guys together. That's kind of my view, because at the end of the day, I think we're benefiting each other. So with that, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been really
it was a
a lot
pleasure.
of fun. Good
Right.
conversation.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Sharene and Morrad, who are co-founders of Takadao. Look them up. It's, I think, takadao.io, and go look at their product, which is called the Life DAO. I think November is when you can start applying for early entry or invitations. And then I think the product goes live, hopefully, if their developers are on time, by early Jan or February. With that, I'll say goodbye and see you guys next week.